As we discussed in our last episode on delegating, the ability to successfully delegate is critical to the success of any manager. Nevertheless, errors in delegation can lead to results that sometimes can be worse than not delegating at all. We'll cover some of the more common mistakes and how to avoid making them in this episode. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you.
A very common delegation mistake has to do with timing. For example, delegating too soon. This can happen if the problem or task is not yet fully developed or understood. It's important that the manager understands fully the task to be delegated.
You know, Fred, another example of delegating too soon is when the team isn't ready for the level of the assignment. I mean, the manager needs to be confident that the members of their team are capable of successfully carrying out the task to be delegated. Delegating a task to an unprepared team is a sure path to failure.
I agree with that. That is the truth. Delegating can also be too late. For example, it may be that the critical deadlines are too short to give the team a chance to succeed, or that the time needed to adequately brief the team isn't available, and the manager must then do the task themselves.
Yes. We've all had that happen. And another version of this is where the manager must stay completely involved in the task. Again, because there wasn't time to read the staff into the assignment.
Another area where mistakes can easily be made is in knowing exactly what to delegate. Some tasks simply can't be delegated for a range of reasons. For example, there may be internal political reasons why the task must be done by the manager. This may occur where a client is involved, and delegating the task could be seen as a slight to the client. Or it can also be seen as the manager not seeing the task as worth their attention.
Yeah, and there's a variation of this, and that's where there's direct client involvement and where it's critical that the client feels important enough to warrant direct attention from the manager. You don't want the client thinking, oh, well, they don't care enough about me to get involved in this. Probably the most common area where mistakes can be made in terms of what's delegated is a misjudgment in terms of what the team is capable of doing. And this could lead to a range of failures.
You know, Rick, that the thing that we were talking about here where the manager needs to make the decision about whether they need to be involved or not is really a critical one. It comes up often in coaching and is really an important thing. If the client is one of the most important clients to the company, the manager has to really be careful before they delegate that assignment to someone else, because just as you said, the client can not like it if the manager's not there.
Yeah, and it involves really understanding the mental set of the client. I mean, some clients are quite easy to get along with in that regard, and others are just unrealistically demanding, and you really have to understand where each client is on that scale. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And that's so important, taking the time to make that judgment. And that comes from In the past, we've talked about the importance of building the relationship, the strong relationship with the client. And the more that you do that and the more that you know about the client, the more you're able to make that judgment.
Right. And I think it's important here at this juncture to point out, a lot of times when we say client, people are thinking outside the organization. But no, any group of people that depend on what your department does is a client, whether they're in the company or not. And sometimes we forget that, and it's important to keep that in mind.
It is. And the thing that we've been talking about through this is that in the delegation, it's also important that the tasks being developed provide staff with the maximum opportunity to develop new skills, visibility, and self-confidence, because for knowledge workers on the way up, those things are really critical.
Right, and again, that's a trade-off that the manager has to make. If you're not stretching your staff, they're not developing, but if you overstretch them, you can, it's really a balancing act. Another common area for mistakes is picking the wrong staff or the wrong staff mix for the assignment. So it's important to, as we were just talking about, to determine if the assigned staff have the appropriate skill mix so you're not dooming them to failure at the start.
And sometimes it's more than one person. It may be a group of staff who are, you want to make sure that they're comfortable working with each other and bring the right mix of skills and experience to successfully complete the assignment. The question that you may need to look at is, have they worked together before? Is it clear to everyone who'll be in charge and responsible for successful completion of the assignment?
Yes, and that is really so important that that the team is the right mix, the right skill mix. Everybody gets along or knows the other people, and again, that's a real management challenge. And finally, the manager's got to decide, is this assignment the best use of his staff or her staff resources? Or are they better utilized elsewhere? I mean, the whole objective in delegating is to maximize the utilization of their staff.
You're right. And let's look at another common mistake. It's the failure of the manager to give adequate initial guidance for the successful completion of the assignment. As the manager, you want to avoid micromanaging the project, but you also need to guarantee its success.
Yeah, and this is another balancing act. I mean, to do this, it's critical that all the important information that is provided to the team, so that they know, what they're doing to begin with. And you have to understand as the manager that anything you don't specifically tell them or that's obvious at the outset may not be correctly understood by the team.
That is so true. That communication, and so many times the manager in the coaching situation says, the people didn't get it, and we have to look at them and say, whose fault is that? It's your fault.
Exactly. That you can't just throw them in the pool and yell swim. You've got to understand and make sure they understand what's going on. I mean, to do this successfully, the manager has to have a good understanding of the skills and intelligence of the team that they're assigning to the task, and a deep understanding of the requirements of successfully completing the assignment. And this information needs to be communicated at the very outset to the team. Sometimes managers just don't think about, telling everything they know about what's going on before the team takes on the task.
Yeah, and sometimes there may be critical factors that can affect the outcome, but may not be obvious to the team at the beginning. These need to be communicated as much as possible at the outset of the project.
Right, and related to this is another area that's often made in delegating, and that's either to micromanage the team or to be too hands-off.
That's true. The good manager wants to exhibit confidence in the team in order to show that he believes in the team, and that they can exercise good judgment and manage successful completion of the task on their own. This type of independence helps to develop confident and competent staff.
Yeah, Fred, but remember, and again, this is all balancing acts. On the other hand, too little involvement can also signal, either rightly or wrongly, that the assignment isn't important and the manager really doesn't care about the outcome.
That's true, and the critical thing there is that the manager is going to be ultimately responsible for the success of the project, and so they have to be involved. And if it involves coaching and getting people straightened out as to what they're doing, that's why the importance of continuing to check on the progress is so important.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, you're right, Fred. And because you want to be aware of any unanticipated problems or changes in the design of the project. I mean, having a regular meeting schedule with the team for progress updates and discussion of any issues or problems is different from micromanaging. It's important to keep that in mind. That is, telling the staff exactly what to do and when, as opposed to just getting feedback on their progress and the issues they're encountering and how they've handled them. That's two different things. But by having regular meetings, the manager is verifying that the project's on schedule, there are no unanticipated problems, or if there are, that they're being handled effectively.
That's true. And then through such meetings, the manager determines that the project's on schedule and that they're showing interest in its successful outcome. And as we've been talking about, it's critical that the manager shows interest in the project and continues to announce that it's important. This can be done without giving input into the process of carrying out the assignment. The only input from the manager should be to correct any obvious errors that the team may be making.
Right, absolutely. So in this episode, we've covered several of the common mistakes a manager can make when delegating assignments. These can include delegating too soon or not soon enough, not knowing exactly what to delegate, delegating to inappropriate staff, either micromanaging or not managing closely enough, as well as failing to regularly follow up on the progress of the project. We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more management mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.